Hi guys, it's either welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm Keosha. I'm a lawyer that doesn't practice. I'm a mid-level government bureaucrat, and I'm just someone who moonlights in creativity. And today we are reviewing episode 16 of Married at First Sight Houston. We are right at the finish line. At the beginning of the episode, they were about 6 days out from decision day. So it has gotten real. By the end of the episode, basically the next day will be decision day. So let's get into it. I'm gonna go couple by couple. This shouldn't be as long. It's a lot of wrapping up, a lot of people checking in, a lot of people, I don't know, maybe trying to circle back around and see if there's something there. So this shouldn't be too long, but let's get into it. So let's start with Myrla and Gil. Myrla met with her friend, and her friend was just kind of asking her about red flags and just how things had been going generally. And basically Myrla was like, oh, he's fine, I'm the handful. You know, she didn't say I'm the problem, but she was like, yeah, it's me, it's not him, he's great. And Myrla's only con is the finances. And we saw her kind of mention this when they showed each other's like bank accounts, but we didn't see her really go in depth with this. And she basically told her friend, like, she was shocked when she found out that he didn't have a savings account. And it almost feels like, just with what she wants in life, you know, the house, the kids, to travel, to like live comfortably, it's almost like to do that with him, she's gonna have to go backwards. And I was like, damn. And you know, I mean, it's real stuff. Like, these are real life issues. I think, Gil is a firefighter, and apparently he had just become a firefighter. And so that's tough. You know, you've lived a certain way your whole life. You've built your way up. You have built your way to a certain standard of living. And now, not necessarily that she's asking him to just take care of everything, but it's like, and now she's not allowed to move how she would like to move because Gil's not there yet. So that was interesting. And she just basically said it's something that she's really gonna have to think about before she can decide if she wants to do this forever. And so cut to Gil and Myrla. They went skating. Gil can skate, Myrla cannot. I mean, it was just cute. They were hanging out like a date or whatever. And basically Gil starts calling her out. And I don't know if y'all have noticed how crass Gil's call outs have been. Like, you're being a brat. You're being this, just like really crass, as opposed to, you know, you're being really negative right now and it's kind of bringing me down. Like, I don't know, he's been increasingly crass with her with regards to her attitude. And I'm like, is he getting cold feet, or is he over it, or is he just annoyed? I don't know, but like, I understand Myrla may have her tweaks or her quirks, but there's no need to kind of attack her for it. Like, if she's getting in a way where she is acting bratty, you know, there's a way to say everything. Like, hey, you know, you're acting you're acting a little childish, or you're leaning towards the negative again. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but he was coming really hard at her. And he basically, it starts to come out, and it starts to make sense why he always calls her a brat, and why he always brings up the finances, and why this finance talk has gotten more harsh as the weeks have went on. Gil is insecure. Gil is insecure because Myrla makes more money than him. We'll get into it more when he talks to his mom, but he's insecure. He told her while they were at the skating rink, he was like, sometimes I feel like you talk down to people because you have worked your way into this position. And sometimes I feel like you look down on people. And it was just kind of like, wait, what? And from what we've seen from Myrla, like, she has very high standards for herself, absolutely. But I've never seen her be like, ugh, you know, what does she have on? What does he have on? When they went to Jose's house, she was like, listen, I'm not staying long. I don't really like doing this. But she wasn't like, ugh, your house, where's this, where's that? And so I don't know, maybe he's seeing something that we didn't see. Or maybe he's just being really insecure and kind of making issues where there aren't necessarily issues. Maybe it's not necessarily that she talks down to people and she looks down on people. Maybe he feels talked down to and looked down upon because of how much more money she makes than him. And you know, the finance thing is huge. It's really huge. But I'm glad that they're talking about it. Maybe they've talked about it in depth before, but it seems to really be coming to a head now. And I'm gonna say this, like, and I don't know what it means, but I don't know if I feel like she has to change her lifestyle. If I've been living this way, if I've held it down, and if I'm good financially, what's the problem? You know, like, they're clearly going to be in a partnership. They're clearly, if they get married, they're clearly going to commingle and combine everything. And so what's the problem? Like I said, later we find out kind of what it is and we dig a little deeper into his insecurities.
So this is editing Keosha. The reason why I keep scratching in this video, you're going to see me scratching and it looks like I smoke crack. I do not smoke crack. I have been off of my allergy meds as of the date that you're going to see this video. I had been off of my allergy meds and a bunch of other meds for like 2 weeks because I had to get allergy testing. So if you see me scratching in this video, and I'm realizing it was the previous video I was scratching like I had rabies as well. I'm not on drugs and I don't have rabies. I have bad allergies. Bye.
But yeah. And I don't know, I'm sorry. But I have worked really hard to get to where I am. And so maybe I relate to Myrla a little bit more. And I know, oh Lord, don't be mad at me. But there was a point where Gil was kind of giving brokey vibes to me. And what I mean by that is, like, he was like, you know, money isn't everything and life isn't all about money. And it's like, this is true, but you say this all the time. Like, you're giving, I don't know, you not necessarily brokey vibes, but you're feeling really insecure about how much money you make. Like, what does what she spend have to do, I won't say with him because they are married, but everything's taken care of. Like, I don't know, y'all. I don't know. Maybe I'm rambling. But let's talk about his conversation with his mom. And listen, I get what he's saying about finances to a certain extent, but at the same time, like, you can't expect for me to lower my quality of life to make you comfortable. For example, I am 33, I'll be 34 in a couple of days. I'm used to a certain way of living. I'm used to, you know, nice things. And when it comes to like a partner, I have a man, you know, I live with him. He does well also. We are equally yoked on that front. And I can't say, or not I can't say, in the past, I have not dealt with men, as an adult who, or where I would have to change my standard of living, where I would have to go down a couple pegs with regards to how I live to be with them. No. So I don't know, maybe I'm personalizing this a little too much, but I don't know, And so he's talking to his mom, and he's basically telling his mom how great of a woman Myrla is and how they really do get along. But that, she's kind of spoiled, and his mom kind of laughed. And he mentioned how he grew up in a traditional household where his dad paid for everything. And he mentioned that Myrla also grew up in a traditional household where her dad paid for everything. Excuse me. And so that expectation seems to really be freaking him out and pulling the insecurities out of him, because he was like, she makes 2 times more than I do. I can't take care of everything. And then, him and his mom kind of started talking about fairness and it just being different times. And that's true. Times are different. Whatever works for a couple works for a couple. I don't know how that looks. I don't know how the delegation of bills and stuff, I don't know how that looks for them. But all I'm saying is you can see why all he talks about is finances. Because he's not, he's not the richest guy in the world. And, it's easy to be humble and not expect much and not mind, living in a certain type of place when you don't make that much. I don't know, y'all. I'm really trying not to sound away or sound elitist, but you cannot expect somebody to go from living in a high rise to living in the opposite of a high rise. Now, I do think they can meet in the middle and compromise. Maybe it wouldn't have to be a high rise smack dab in the middle of downtown, the most expensive place, but also it would have to be somewhere relatively nice. So I don't know. For their last night together, it was cool. They kicked it. They were just kind of talking about, the next day. And I don't know. I think they can make it work, but I think they're gonna have to try to figure out how to meet somewhere in the middle, whatever that looks like. But I think they can make it work, and I had them down as one of the couples that I think is actually gonna make it. So, we'll see. I don't know. We'll see. Rachel and Jose. Rachel was out with her friend, and she basically does what she always do, and she was gushing about Jose and how great he is and all the good things about him. And her friend was pretty no nonsense. Her friend wasn't with the shits at all. And so her friend was just basically like, hey, are you staying married? Are you gonna stay married to him? And Rachel starts kind of laying out the pros and cons, and particularly the con about him not being a good listener, and if that's something that she can live with for the rest of her life or for the duration of the marriage, which I'm guessing is the rest of her life. And her friend was just basically like, listen, those note cards that he came up with, that's cute and all, but you need to keep his ass accountable. Anybody could write down notepads. You know what I'm saying? Notepads have nothing to do with you being a good person and you treating your partner nice. So agree with that also. And then Jose met with his friend, same thing. He was gushing about Rachel. He did tell his friend that she slept at her ex's house, and her friend, Jose's friend was like, he was clearly shaken, taken aback. And he basically told Jose like, hey, keep your eyes open, all right? And what I'm gonna say to that is, I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I think Rachel cheated in her most recent relationship. And then, don't get me wrong, Jose was dead ass wrong. And honestly, if I were Rachel, I wouldn't be with him. But since she has decided to be with him, the fact that she went to her ex's house, and I do believe she didn't do anything, but the fact that she went to her ex's house to spend the night afterwards, which I said in my last video, I think it's Jose's fault. He opened that door, he put her out. But the fact that she did do that, like, I do think Jose should keep his eyes open. Trust but verify, that type of thing. And so they went on a date, and, she's clearly really anxious about decision day because it's just so much that she doesn't know about Jose. And I guess given that big blow up, she's really thinking about it, and she should be. Most of these people should be really anxious if this is something that they're taking seriously. And Jose said, he was like, thinking back to being single again, my life just wasn't fun. I was always by myself. I went to work, I came home, I went to the gym. It was just boring. With you, it's completely different. I feel like I have a best friend, and I just don't want to, at this point, go back to the single life. And then he starts kind of taking shots in general at like people traveling and living it up and having a good time. And Rachel was like, hold up, because I want to travel and live my life in YOLO, but I want to do it with you. And he was just like, I didn't grow up that way, and we would take trips to San Antonio, and we could take a trip to Vegas. And Rachel was just like, duh, what the fuck? Rachel seemed mortified, and travel does seem to be a big part of her identity. And so, I don't know, Jose is a piece of work. San Antonio is not a compromise for Switzerland. It's not even close. And if you're holding on that tight to money, me personally, I wouldn't be able to do it. But I'm not Rachel. And so Rachel did say, you know what? Okay, we could take a big trip once every 2 years. And I think that's a huge compromise for somebody who likes to be gone all the time. And he still was like, I don't know. And you could tell like that kind of, she looked deflated, like kind of crushed. With regards to their last night together, they were pretty normal, all their lovey-dovey, actions. And I do think she's gonna choose to stay with him. And I do think he's gonna choose to stay with her. We won't really see what's going on beyond the end of the show, but I think they're gonna have a really interesting time, a tough go of it. Because, they've only known each other for 6 weeks. And after the cameras go off is when the real stuff starts. So that's that on them. With regards to Brett and Ryan, oh my God. Ryan, it opens up with Ryan playing tennis with his friend, and his friend asked if he had regretted anything, really. And Ryan didn't really address it. He was just like, I've had fun, and that's about it. That's about as far as this has gone. And the friend pointed out that Ryan isn't the best communicator, and that he needs somebody to call him out. And it's basically like what everybody has been saying, even Ryan himself. But when Brett would call him out, he would just shut down and look stupid. So it's just kind of like, it seems like everybody around him just expects for him to be this child, and everybody brings him up. You know, everybody holds him accountable and pulls him up, as opposed to him holding himself accountable and pulling himself up. And he said he basically hates being the reason why this isn't working. And the friend was like, wait, what? Like, I'm sure you're not the reason why it's not working. And then he dropped the bomb that he had downloading a dating app, and his friend was like, oh. So it cuts to Brett. They hadn't really spoken since he left the apartment. She hadn't seen him. At this point, Brett's sister calls her, and they just kind of chit chat about what's going on. And the thing that really offends Brett is that Brian can't take responsibility for anything. And, you know, basically he was on that site. I found out, and it still was just like, oh, well, I wasn't active. And she was just like, I just don't get it. And his sister was like, honey, it's because he doesn't care. And it's true, he doesn't care. Brian hasn't cared about Brett since he met her. He has been completely disinterested. And go back to my first couple of reviews when I saw Brian. I was just like, this man could be anywhere but here right now. On their wedding day. Brett also mentioned that she would have given it her all, no matter who she was paired up with. That's how committed to this that she was. That's how committed to this situation that she was. That's how committed to this marriage she was. She was willing to give it 100% with anybody. As opposed to Ryan, that wasn't the case. Ryan just had expectations that this was going to be something different. And when he got into it and saw what it was, he didn't want it. You know, he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to put in any real work or effort. And she's just mainly disappointed because things just didn't have to go down that way. Like I said, all he had to do was try. And just from the beginning, he had checked out, you know? And Ryan came back to the apartment, I guess, to apologize. And he didn't really do that. He was just like, you know, I hate that I put you in that situation. It wasn't my intention. And I feel really stupid about it, but you know, it wasn't my intention. And it's just like, even now, after all this, you can't even really stand up in it. Come to Brett like, listen, I fucked up. From the beginning, I have not taken you seriously. And I realize that I'm wrong for that. And I realize I've made a mockery of this entire situation. So I just want to let you know, like, I'm the awful person here. It's me. It's not you. And, you know, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Instead, oh, it wasn't my intention. Shut up. Ugh. So, of course, they're not gonna be together. I mean, duh. And so we move on to Michaela. And Michaela's sister visited her, and she kind of starts playing the victim again, kind of saying that whole, you know, Zach did the thing that he knew I hated and he left me. And it's just kind of like, girl, this violin and this sad song, like, you're gonna have to let this go. He left you because you told him to. You told him to. You chastised that man until he started feeling crazy and he got up and left. And she was telling his sister, like, he thinks I'm this combative person. And maybe you're not 90% of the time, but that 10% is enough. It's enough. That's how crazy those situations are. That 10% is enough to drive anybody away. And she was mentioning that, yeah, they had hung out, they had talked since the big blow up, and Zach asked if she would spend the night, and it was kind of like this funny back and forth between her and her sister. And she was like, well, her sister said, well, did you spend the night? She said, I packed the bag. It was really funny. Basically, yeah, she spent the night with her husband. And that's what her sister said. She was like, well, child, it's your husband, and I hope y'all work it out. And her sister asked her, you know, where do things stand with you two? And Michaela was basically like, you know, I don't know right now. I just really have a lot of things that I need to think about. And she does. Well, I don't think she does at all, honestly. I think they're done. They should just be done. And she should take this and learn from it. You know, work on that. Work on your triggers. Work on how upset you get. Work on your temper. Work on that. Because she seems like a nice woman, but that crazy side, it just takes everything else away. It negates all of your good qualities. So now we're on to Bao and Johnny. Yeah, now we're on to Bao and Johnny. Bao met with her friend, and she was just kind of telling her friend how things have been going and how things have just went downhill, basically. And she told her friend about Sarah and how betrayed she feels, and she just kind of feels like, dang, I don't have a husband, and then the best friend of 20 years, I don't have her either. Her friend was just basically like, you know, I haven't really seen you down like this in a long time. And so that was kind of it. And then we move on to Johnny, and Johnny was talking to his friends. And just like anybody that Johnny ever talks to, everybody tells Johnny that he's being unreasonable and that he needs to slow down and really give this a chance, and that his standards are ridiculously false, like, or not at all reality. And that's basically what his friends did. They were like, so you're saying all this negative stuff, but we're sure Bao has redeeming qualities. We're sure she's a great woman, you know? And he acted like he was really understanding it, and maybe he was, but he's so flip-floppy. He's so all over the place. Who knows? But his friends just basically did what everyone does with regards to Johnny. Call him out. And so they met up for dinner. Bao looked amazing. They just kind of talked about how there had been a lot of ups and downs, and I can't really, how did they sum it up? There's been a lot of ups and downs, but you could tell that Bao wants to say yes, which is the craziest thing. I get it, like, you got married and you're committed to this, but girl, he is demon spawn. So, I mean, that was it. And then their last night together was really awkward. They didn't really have much to talk about. So it's like, Bao, please say no. I don't think she's going to. I think she's going to say yes, but we know what Johnny's going to say. And then Gil met up with Zach. Zach told Gil that what happened that night traumatized him, rightfully so. He realized at that moment that he didn't want to do that anymore. And Gil asked if she apologized, and he said, well, she didn't really apologize, but when I asked her what could I have done better in that situation, she basically said, honestly, nothing. It was nothing you could have done. So it's like when they're by themselves, she'll be honest, but like in front of the camera, in front of other people, oh, well, it's me, I'm the victim, he left me. And he keeps saying she's a nice girl, so I do think she has redeeming qualities. So yeah, I think he's definitely gonna say no. And I think she's definitely gonna say no. And it makes sense, right? Let's not fake this. And hopefully his mixy self, him and his mixed signals, hopefully he lets that girl go and he lets her be. And then the big group meet up, the last time they're all going to be together for decision day officially. Brett and Ryan hadn't really seen or talked to each other since then, so that was interesting. Gil's messy self, of course, wants to pick people's brains, so it kicks it off. You know, he asked people their reasons they would say no, and Gil basically said if his wife continues to act single, And he feels like she's selfish. And it's just like, what the fuck, Gil? What the fuck? Like, you have gotten into your own head at this point with this money thing. And it's like, you're ruining what could have been because you're not secure with yourself. Myrla said basically it would be over if he tried to make her stop shopping. Which is kind of seeming like that's what he's trying to do. Brett is basically a no on decision day. Ryan gave a defensive ass rebuttal to what Brett had to say. Johnny said he'd say yes if he saw some potential, he'd give it a shot. That's a fucking lie. Bao said that Johnny challenged her to be a better person. And I could see that because you could see how patient she was trying to be. She really was. I mean, she had the patience of Job. Zach basically said a yes means that he's been happy and they've had a great 8 weeks. A no means he hasn't been happy and they haven't had a great 8 weeks. Okay. And Bao says she'd be crushed if it's a no, but that she'd basically be done with it. Like Zach was like, I might say no, but I might want to strike up something and work it out past this. And Bao was like, absolutely not. If you say no, we're done. And I agree with that. Brett said, kind of what did they talked about what did they learn about themselves. Brett learned that she is extremely open-minded. Rachel said that she has kind of gained patience because normally arguments will lead to breakups and she's not broken up, she's still with him. Bao said she learned that she really has a propensity for patience and kindness. Johnny said that he thought he was always the chill guy and he learned that he's actually an emotional wreck. Bingo. Zach basically piggybacked off Johnny and said he learned that apparently his critical reasoning skills are flawed. And Gil learned that he's able to be vulnerable with someone. And so what does all of this mean? I think Gil and Myrla could potentially say yes. I think Rachel and Jose will say yes. I think the rest of the couples will say no. I think this last episode is going to be really explosive and potentially emotional, and I'm really excited to see it, and I'm really excited to wrap this up. I'm gonna make a video about how I think this show has turned more into reality TV as opposed to like people finding love. But that's it for today's episode. If you made it this far, thank you so much. And I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.